Hello and welcome to Dubai Trains, and today we're going to look at a layout design of a Proto Freelance interpretation of the Monterey Branch line. It's Proto Freelance because we're going to be honoring the trackage and the track plan as it was during the heyday of the branch itself, and we're just taking into account that the SP, the Southern Pacific, never closed the line down as it did in the 70s. So it's still operational and set in today's time. So in this video, I'm going to go through the track plan step by step, station by station, and I'm also going to constantly reference to the actual locations as they were and how they are today. And at the end of the video, we're going to look at some operating aspects of the layout. I'll be referring quite a lot to this trace of the branch line that Ben Fields made. Quick shout out to Ben, hope you're doing well, mate. And I'm going to be looking at several other sources. So here is the branch line in all its glory, here line in blue with some remarkable points along the way with the blue dots, the blue points right here. And it starts here at Castroville where the branch line branches off from the SP main line. And the layout design for today actually starts there, but Castroville is represented by staging. So this is where we are, this is the staging, this is the maximum train length. It's set in modern day times and there's a lot of passenger running. We're doing one engine, but it's actually space for two engines and 7 85-foot passenger cars. Coming in from Castroville and staging, we move here to the north and we'll follow the coastline right here, as you see nicely. And then the first stop is going to be Maine Sand, a sand pit. If you zoom in, look at the actual railroad, you see that we're quite tightly hugging the sea. This is what I tried to represent the sea, and then we have these dunes here in an irregular pattern. That's what we see here as well on the layout. And then the main is, as I said, a sand pit, and it's just a small little switching area with a little run around here. It's a little task to keep someone busy, to keep a local busy to pick up some cars, or perhaps a special to come down and to switch a car or two. So this is the sand pit along the line. So then we see a very small station here in Barden, and that is on the layout as well. So we follow the line here, and Barden is just represented by a very small platform where people can get on and off. And again, we're hugging the coastline here. This is just some detail. This is a spur that goes off to the side. There's quite a few spurs on the prototype that I don't model, so I just wanted to add one here to show that the world is bigger than our layout. We make a turn here, go through the dunes a bit, and then we arrive at the first major location, which is Seaside. So here's the sand pit, and if we go down the line, we have Giggling, an old army base. We chose not to model that. It's not where the client's interest was. And then here we have Seaside. So we see on Seaside, that's actually quite close to the ocean right here. A bit of an urban area nowadays is set in this industrial area with a lot of car dealerships. And we chose not to model that and to keep the layout a little bit more open with more greenery, as there's plenty of city scene later on the layout. We did put in the spur, I said, and then the freight depot here. This is nice for the local. And then here we have a track. This does not exist in the prototype, but this is basically here so you can turn your engines around when you're resetting an operation session. One thing you'll notice as well in the prototype is there's a lot of residential area that the train goes through. Here the train makes a 180, and this is a 34-inch radius curve, and you're going to need that. It's already a bit tight for those large 85 feet passenger cars. And here we're looking at a rock structure. So if you look at the prototype, there's several areas here where the railroad really hugs the contour of these super rocky, cliffy, rough seas. So that's what we're modeling right here. And coming out of the bend, there's another small location called Retreat. That's there in the prototype as well. And just another small little spur for a local to switch. Now, if we go up here, then we come to the first large area. Let me just turn this guy on so we don't get too confused. And this is a Del Monte. And you see the line splits here in double line, and it actually is basically connected to the Monterey freight depot. Now, I do want to remind you, if you like where this track plan is going, please click the subscribe button down below. Let's continue. So here's Del Monte, and you see it's in the middle of the dunes, the middle of nowhere. So that's what we modeled. And then it's a double track along here. We actually are on the beach, more or less. And then we go to this area, which was the Monterey freight depot. I made a few minor changes to this track plan. I'll come to that later when we talk about operations. So this is the freight depot. There's some tracks here for switching. It's nice. And then here we go back to the rock structure. So we try to hug more or less in this ovally ellipsy egg-shaped curve, the rock structure, more houses here on the side. And then we come to one of the main areas of the layout. And for that, we need to look at this map, this old map. So if I just zoom in here you see the coast is here, the water in the north, and then we have the track coming in here. It already says southern and Pacific is just off the map. This is the Monterey Freight Depot. Then we wiggle up here, we hug the coast as I showed you before, and then we come into the Cannery Row section. And Cannery Row back in the day was a hustling and bustling sardine canning street. So just explained, we have the seaside here, and then we have the first row of basically harbors where the fishermen would come in with the sardines, and then there's a street here, and that's actually called Cannery Row, and it's iconic because it has a lot of structures over the road where the fish would go from the cleaning station on one side to the packing station on the other side of the street, and then behind the packing is the shipping, and that's the street, or the lane I should say. This wasn't a road, I believe, where all the engine and the switching and the railroad side of the business is, and that's what we're going to be modeling. This entire section is the Cannery Row section. So if you're thinking, so how are we going to tackle this? How would you model this? Well, first let's cut it down. And basically, if we have the space to model this whole stretch more or less, so we're going to cut it down in two sections. The first section is here in this row of city blocks, and then we move from this city block row to the next one, and that's this second section. So we have this straight right here, then we make this diagonal jump, and then we have the straight right here. And then important to note all the different roads. So we have 1, 2, 3 here, then we make this jump, and then we have 1, 2. So in reversed order, here we have some greenery, team track, then we have 1, 2, then we make this jump, and then we have 1, 2, 3 roads. So the roads are all there, and more or less all of the spurs and sidings are there as well. So it starts here with a team track, and then we have 1, 2, 3 different canning companies. Then we go down. Here we have a long spur. This spur, there's one siding actually. That's going to be handy siding. And here's another siding that's completely free. Some houses on one side. And so that's basically that. As exciting as this is to operate this section here in the north, it's not that difficult to actually make and model. Most of the efforts is going to be in all the structures. But that's going to be really nice and really fun place in the room. So then let's continue, and here is another map for a land auction sale. That's where we have to get our information from. If we zoom in here to the right bottom, you see there is the Pacific Cove yard, and this is actually the main yard on the layout, and it's really nice almost at the end of the layout. We have 4 tracks here. There used to be a turntable here. Chose not to model that as a bit of a waste of space, and we don't need it in modern diesel times. And other than that, more or less, it's all modeled accurately. As you can see here, we have the 4 tracks. There's a switch over there from 2 tracks. I did add engine facility. It's originally on the other side of the railroad, but I just added this side because we have more space. So here was Pacific Grove on the map. And then if we go to the end of the line, let me just zoom out a bit. We end quite quickly. There used to be a lake Majella here, where there was a sand winning pit, another one. And there was very, very long ago a forestry here. And I thought that the forestry would be a really nice addition just to paste here at the end of the line to just generate some logs and some different type of traffic and cars on your layout. Some cars are parked right here, and then with a small diesel, for example, you just come out, take the switch back, put the full cars on this track right here, take the empty ones here, and do the whole thing in reverse. So that was the entire layout. I hope that wasn't too fast for everyone. Now let's have a look at the operations. So to do that, let me just turn all the scenery off, just like that. So that's a bit better. A few more notes to make as well. Here, behind here, are 2 posts, because this used to be a supporting wall, so we need to have some posts up here, 1 and 2. So I just covered those up with a little bit of a thickening into the back wall right there. And let's look at the operations from a very high over perspective. So we have the traffic generator here, Castroville, that is staging, and most of the traffic has to go here to the yard in Pacific Cove. So along the way we have a passing siding right here at Seaside, and then here at Del Monte and the freight yard we have a very long passing siding. So the lot of the traffic that's going to meet here and perhaps wait to get clearance to go through this Cannery Row section up here in the north. So one change I made here is I added this crossover right there, because I think this is going to be a very useful piece of track. This is probably the most useful piece of track for this entire layout, with all the traffic that's coming in now. And what this crossover allows you to do is to switch this section, these two areas right here, without fouling the main line. Because don't forget, on our compressed versions of the real world, the traffic density is way higher than it is in the prototype. So we need to accommodate for that. So the intermediate stations here at Maine Sand, the Retreat, this one as well, the Monterey Freight Depot, they will all be switched with the local coming in or going out, depending on the direction of the spur. And Cannery Row has its own switcher that can receive somewhere here on the sidings while it's not in operation, or it can go here to the depot in Pacific Grove. So if you're hungry for another track plan, a layout design, check the video here on the left. And if you want to see more in detail how I come to these designs and how I translate the prototype to a layout, check the video series here on the right, from town to the railroad to layout, and I explain all that and much more. Thank you all for watching. That's it for today. Thank you very much.